The sulfurous stench of the deep abyssal dungeon clung heavily to the damp, ancient stonework. Sirus wiped a mixture of cold sweat and thick black monster blood from his aching forehead. A massive pair of obsidian doors at the end of the hall burst open with a deafening crash. Heavy, echoing footsteps resonated across the marble tiles as two towering figures stepped into view. Queen Malizia moved forward with absolute grace, her flowing crimson gown trailing behind her like liquid fire. Beside her stood Lord Barrett, his massive armored chest expanding with every deep, disgruntled breath. The sheer pressure of their combined presence forced Sirus onto one knee as the ground cracked beneath him. A holographic blue system window suddenly flickered into existence right before his eyes. The text warned that his infected curse would consume his heart within 20 minutes unless he acted. Sirus knew that his only survival lay in activating the hidden agitation core within his soul. Queen Malizia looked at the weak F-rank hunter and laughed with deep, mocking condescension. Lord Barrett scoffed loudly, complaining that his wife always wasted time playing with pathetic human insects. Sirus noticed the subtle flinch in the queen's expression at her husband's dismissive words. A dangerous smile crept onto Sirus's face as he realized their marital discord was the perfect weapon. Sirus stood up slowly and loudly remarked that the mighty queen seemed to have very little authority in her own home. The entire chamber fell into a suffocating, absolute silence at the hunter's sheer audacity. Queen Malizia's beautiful face contorted into pure, unadulterated rage as her aura flared violently. A golden notification flashed, stating that target Malizia's agitation level had reached 50%. Instantly, Sirus felt a massive surge of raw strength flood into his muscles as his base strength multiplied. Sirus continued his assault, laughing that Lord Barrett probably looked down on her because she lacked true power. Lord Barrett bellowed in anger, demanding that his wife silence this insect immediately before he did it himself. Queen Malizia snapped at her husband, screaming that she did not need a weak man to tell her how to rule. The system chime rang repeatedly as both targets reached critical agitation levels simultaneously. Sirus's agility stat skyrocketed by 500%, making his vision move in slow motion. Queen Malizia unleashed a massive wave of dark magic needles directly toward the impudent human. Sirus vanished from his spot, leaving behind a shattered crater where the needles exploded into dust. Lord Barrett's eyes widened in surprise as he completely lost track of the F-rank hunter's movements. Sirus reappeared directly behind Lord Barrett, whispering that his wife's aim was as pathetic as his leadership. Lord Barrett swung his giant sword in a blind rage, completely missing Sirus and cleaving a massive stone pillar in half. The falling pillar crashed heavily toward Queen Malizia, who had to shield herself with an angry blast of magic. Sirus leaped away lightly, shouting that the king was clearly trying to assassinate his own queen during the chaos. Queen Malizia screamed at Barrett, accusing him of using this distraction to finally take her throne. A massive system window materialized, declaring that the agitation multiplier had reached its absolute maximum threshold. Sirus's broken iron blade began to glow with a blinding, concentrated golden aura that hummed with immense power. The two demon lords suddenly realized the horrifying level of energy radiating from the youth they had dismissed. With a single, devastating forward thrust, Sirus unleashed a golden shockwave that tore through the stone floor like paper. Lord Barrett was thrown backward into the throne, his heavy dark armor shattering into countless metallic pieces. Queen Malizia barely managed to conjure a defensive shield, her crown flying off as she was pushed to her knees. Sirus panted heavily as his golden aura faded, his body screaming from the strain of utilizing such massive power. Suddenly, the entire dungeon shook violently as a sinister red warning light began to blink rapidly across the ceiling. A massive, dark void opened directly beneath Sirus's feet before he could even gather his remaining strength. Queen Malizia reached out a hand toward the falling hunter, screaming that he would never escape her eternal vengeance. The system interface flashed one final, terrifying message as Sirus plunged downward into the absolute unknown. Cold air whipped violently past Sirus's face as his body plummeted down the dark abyss. A sudden jarring impact rattled through his spine as his boots slammed onto a moving stone platform. Heavily armored figures surrounded him instantly, their drawn weapons gleaming with malicious intent under the dim torches. A corrupt hunter captain stepped forward from the crowd, a cruel smirk twisting his scarred face. The captain demanded that the F-rank trash take the lead as the frontline vanguard bait. Sirus quietly stood up and brushed the dust off his tattered leather armor without uttering a single complaint. A bright golden holographic line suddenly materialized along the floor, visible only to his eyes. The system-guided pathfinding interface map expanded directly inside his peripheral vision. Behind him, the heavily armed hunters moved with extreme caution, using Sirus as a human shield against traps. Sirus precisely took a long diagonal step to the left, narrowly avoiding an invisible pressure plate on the flagstone. A heavy steel-tipped pendulum blade suddenly swung from the ceiling right behind his heels, missing him by inches. One of the corrupt captain's vanguard guards screamed as the swinging blade sliced his heavy iron shield in half. Sirus continued marching forward into the depths, completely ignoring the chaotic shouting of the panicked squad. The air grew thick and heavy with the scent of ancient sulfur as they entered a massive vaulted cathedral. The corrupt captain shoved Sirus hard from behind, forcing him right into the center of the desolate room. A deep, rumbling vibration shook the stone floor as a massive silhouette descended from the high-ceiling structure. Saturn, the hidden guardian of the lower depths, revealed her imposing, armor-clad form through the settling dust. Her glowing purple visor fixed instantly onto Sirus, radiating a suffocating aura of pure murderous intent. Saturn swung her colossal war axe in a wide horizontal arc, creating a powerful shockwave that shattered the pillars. The corrupt captain and his men immediately scattered like insects, retreating toward the narrow entrance tunnel. Sirus remained perfectly motionless, his silver hair swaying gently in the violent wind of the incoming attack. A bright system notification banner suddenly manifested in front of his eyes, flashing with golden warnings. The system prompt stated that causing emotional agitation in the Guardian would unlock massive defensive bonuses. Sirus smirked and openly mocked Saturn's clumsy heavy armor, calling her slow and predictable. Saturn's massive armored frame trembled with pure rage as she lifted her heavy axe high above her head. She brought the weapon down with catastrophic force, aiming to crush the impudent F-rank hunter into paste. The system interface chimed loudly, announcing a sudden 400% increase in defensive parameters. Saturn's giant axe violently recoiled off the golden barrier, sending a painful shockwave back into her arms. Sirus crossed his arms casually, completely safe and unharmed inside his glowing geometric energy dome. The Guardian screamed in frustration, her voice echoing like grinding iron plates inside her heavy helmet. Sirus noticed a secondary golden counter ticking upward rapidly on the bottom edge of his screen. He taunted her once more, questioning if a legendary Guardian was truly capable of only hitting this softly. Driven completely insane by the insult, Saturn abandoned all tactical caution and unleashed a barrage of strikes. Every single rapid assault that hit the automated system shield only caused Sirus's core attributes to skyrocket higher. A temporary skill unlock notification flashed brightly, revealing the rare tactical path to the final inner sanctum. Sirus turned his back on the exhausted Guardian, who was now kneeling on the ground panting heavily. He leaped directly into the glowing secret passage, leaving the chaotic battlefield behind once and for all. The crystal tunnel quickly led him to the threshold of a massive, heavily reinforced crimson door. A massive system warning box suddenly painted his entire vision in a terrifying shade of crimson red. The final text message warned that entering the altar room would immediately activate the rival guild's absolute execution curse. From deep behind the heavy crimson door, a seductive yet terrifying laughter echoed out, shaking Sirus to his very core. From deep behind the heavy crimson door, a seductive yet terrifying laughter echoed out, shaking Sirus to his very core. The immense wooden structure groaned loudly as it swung open, revealing a vast, blood-red obsidian altar room. Atop the central platform stood Nazir, her voluptuous figure bathed in an ominous, pulsing purple luminescence. Sirus clutched his burning chest as a bright blue system window flashed before his eyes, warning him of the rapid approach of his rival guild's executioners. He knew he had less than 10 minutes to secure the core cure before the rival guild arrived to clean up the bait team. Nazir stepped forward elegantly, her massive dark wings unfurling to their full, intimidating span. She giggled softly, remarking on how a pathetic little insect like an F-rank hunter could ever hope to touch her absolute domain. Sirus took a slow, deep breath, deliberately smirking to execute his favorite psychological provocation tactic. He loudly announced to the room that for a powerful demon lord, her presence was remarkably dull and completely uninspiring. Nazir's smile instantly vanished, replaced by a sudden flare of violet light, as the first wave of irritation broke through her haughty composure. Instantly, a bright golden system alert chimed loudly in Sirus's mind, announcing that the target's agitation had reached 20%. Infuriated by his smug expression, Nazir raised her pale hand and conjured a massive vortex of dark purple fireballs to incinerate him on the spot. Sirus watched the deadly projectiles closely, using his enhanced system-guided pathfinding to calculate the exact trajectory of every oncoming spell. With his speed now doubled by the system bonus, he dashed forward in a blur, effortlessly weaving through the explosions of purple flame. As he bypassed her initial volley, Sirus yelled that even the lower-tier imps in the outer dungeon had far better aim than she did. Nazir's breath caught in sheer disbelief as intricate violet runes began to spread rapidly across her exposed neck and shoulders. The system screen chimed again, informing Sirus that the target's agitation level had successfully skyrocketed to 50%. Screaming in absolute rage, Nazir summoned a massive obsidian broadsword and swung it downward with enough force to shatter the bedrock. Sirus raised his fractured dark steel blade, using his freshly multiplied defensive attributes to absorb the shocking kinetic shockwave directly. Standing firmly beneath her overwhelming weight, he chuckled and whispered that her physical strength was as disappointing as her magic. Nazir's eyes widened to their absolute limits as her ultimate pride as a superior demon monarch was utterly trampled by a low-ranking human. A final golden notification flashed across Sirus's vision, declaring that the agitation core had reached its maximum threshold of 99%. With an explosive burst of absolute physical power, Sirus deflected her massive weapon, sending the demon lord stumbling backward into her own altar. The violent impact against the central structure inadvertently cracked open a hidden crystal sarcophagus directly beneath the primary throne. Out of the shimmering red mist emerged a beautiful, liquid-like humanoid form known as the Crimson Avatar, the true physical personification of the demon god's ancient blood. The pure energy entity immediately realized the danger and flew toward the ceiling, attempting to escape through the upper ruins of the dungeon. Sirus knew that if the Avatar escaped, his last chance at curing the lethal infected curse eating away at his life force would be gone forever. Behind him, the recovering Nazir screamed that she would never allow a lowly human to steal her ancestral god's ultimate treasure. Ignoring the failing demon queen, Sirus activated his maximum system-boosted jump, soaring through the air like a brilliant golden missile. He quickly closed the distance, extending his left arm to deploy a specialized system-infused stasis artifact to capture the fluid entity. The Crimson Avatar darted left and right with incredible fluid agility, desperately trying to bypass his outstretched hands. Predicting her exact evasive maneuver through his pathfinding system, Sirus twisted his body mid-flight and successfully intercepted her path. With a definitive flash of absolute system dominance, the Crimson Avatar was completely absorbed directly into Sirus's glowing left palm. Instantly, a barrage of beautiful white system messages flooded his vision, confirming the complete neutralization of his lethal curse. Not only was he fully cured, but the immense concentrated power of the demon god's blood permanently upgraded his agitation core to an unranked divine tier. Suddenly, the heavy entrance doors blasted open completely as the corrupt captain and the elite rival guild executioners finally rushed into the room. The corrupt captain laughed loudly, assuming Sirus was a battered, exhausted survivor ripe for an easy execution to cover their tracks. Sirus turned around slowly, his expression entirely devoid of fear, looking down upon the high-ranking executioners like mere children. With his newly ascended divine attributes, he lightly tapped the pommel of his blade against the floor, unleashing a massive, crushing shockwave that instantly forced the entire execution squad onto their knees. Realizing their absolute folly, the corrupt captain could only watch in total terror as the boy they deemed an F-rank bait piece stood before them as the undisputed master of the dungeon.